Legends of the Table at the Super Billiards Expo 2025. I've been promising you guys that we are going to continually be uploading interviews and shorts with some of the greatest cue makers and players in the world. We're standing here with the Mcworters. How are we doing today?
Great.
Okay, so two things right off the cuff. Who greatly influenced your cue making? What cue maker? As far as the playability and the construction, which may be two different things, and then who greatly influenced your game the most?
Cue makers in the very beginning, Ernie Gina Q was probably the most influential. We were very good friends. We played around the same pool room. He was rebuilding his shop because he took 13 years off, I think, and I was building my shop at the same time. So we compared notes. I was in his shop all the time.
Wow.
And we've been good friends ever since. Matter of fact, in the very beginning, my machine, I didn't have a setup for tapering shafts. So I was buying blanks from Ernie.
Wow.
He would taper shafts for me, and so we had the same taper.
Are you from a similar part of California then?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was 15
Okay.
minutes away from me.
Okay.
And we both played at the House of Billiards in Sherman, so I saw him every day.
Wow.
And we were both, like I say, he was building his shop, and I was building mine at the same time.
Is the construction process similar to what he does then?
No.
Okay.
No. And he never really came out and said, show me how to do this or how to do that. But I was around it, and we would talk about things and compare notes, and I kind of had my ideas of different things, and sometimes he would say, that's no good, did that years ago. But by osmosis, his friendship was really important.
Wow. It's amazing to have, the greatest cue maker in the world to be able to not only influence you, but to also be a great resource and a friend for you as well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He is the hardest working cue maker, period.
Yeah.
He's financially the most profitable cue maker ever.
Amazing.
Yeah. He really is, his whole life he dedicates to it, and his heart and soul is in it, and works harder than everybody.
Yeah.
And he gets the most money for all of his cue because he should.
Yeah.
And he was one of the very first people put in the ACA Hall of Fame.
By the way, congratulations on your induction last year here at the Super Billiards Expo. For anybody that wants to watch that video, there is a link here on our Crossroad Cues page where you can go to YouTube and type in Super Billiards Expo Jerry Mcworter Hall of Fame. So, I have to ask you this. Well, before we go into the cues, what player had the most influence on your game?
Keith McCready.
Awesome.
Because when I was a young player growing up in California, he was
The Earthquake.
Yeah, he was a Southern California guy, and just flamboyant and entertaining.
Yeah.
Just the character.
Keith is one of the nicest people, as you know, when you get outside of the pool arena, right? Because everybody's competing with each other. And, I just spoke to a player earlier today, and he was telling me about how when you get some of these guys off the table, it's amazing how social they can be. But Keith is literally one of the nicest people I've ever met. He always is the most helpful on the phone. If I call him up, he'll talk about the color of money, he'll talk about pool, and even though he's retired from pool, he's always a positive influence in pool. I love his style as well.
To me, Keith is a little bit of almost a family connection.
Yeah.
Because Robin Dodson, who is essentially my sister-in-law,
Yeah.
Jan's essentially sister, they lived together many years ago before
Yeah.
me and Jan even met, which was 35 years ago.
35 years? 35? You've been dealing with him for 35 years?
We've been married this year's 30 years.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Now let me ask you this.
So Robin and Keith literally grew up together.
Okay.
As 12, 13 year old kids.
Okay.
And their whole pool careers have been together. So that's like family.
Yeah.
So, he was very influential from a distance,
Yeah. So who was playing pool first? Like when you guys met each other, were you both already involved in pool then?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I was playing before her by a couple
Okay.
by now.
Excellent. So I have to ask you, can we take a look at a couple of these cues? So one of the things I like the most about Mcworter cues, you keep the integrity of the cue in regard to the size of the handle, right? So is there a science to that, or is there a theory to that? Because I know a lot of people have gone to like a slimmer handle. I personally love the size of your cues, and I think they play phenomenal. Is there a certain reason why you picked that kind of size?
Well, I have I've had a reputation as a good playing cue forever.
Yeah.
Which is just that's the foundation. So at the beginning, I was making playing cues and trying to make a good playing cue as I was a player. And the dimensions of the cue is a little bit fatter, but that has everything to do with the hit of the cue.
Okay.
And the vibration and of the cue. When you see how much whip is in it, the butt has a lot to do with
Okay.
the cue plays.
Okay.
So I have there are just a little thicker dimensions in here. A lot of people's cues are a straight taper, straight line from there to there is a straight line. Mine isn't. Mine is a compound taper, which means it tapers up here and then slims down a little bit. So there's more meat in the center of the cue right here. And I've been doing it that way from the very beginning, and my dimensions really have not changed.
How in the world is your work so clean? I mean, it's noticeably at a different level than most people. And I mean, like the points, the silver work. Obviously, practice makes perfect. You've been doing it for a really long time. Did it take a long time for you to be able to get that precise with your cue making?
There's cues I could see that I made 25 or 30 years ago that are not much to look at.
They always stay straight, though. I've noticed that for being somebody in the industry, I've rolled them that have been 25, 30 years old, and they roll laser straight. That's incredible.
Well, that's knock on wood. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're wood. Things do change and stuff. But
Yeah.
I stand behind my cues so well. It's never a problem.
You brought some of your popular designs. Could you just share with us what you have on display here?
They all have names.
Okay.
This is the anniversary model, and you can see all the little silver bow ties and little silver doodads on the tips of the points. This is the Deco, which you can see has that kind of an Art Deco style and look to it.
Could we spin that on the table one time, Jerry? I want to give everybody a perspective. If you haven't seen a Mcworter cue up close, you're really missing out. And this is a moderate amount of silver in comparison to some of your big. This is a lot of silver.
This is the perfect amount. It's not overdone and it's not underdone, right?
Wow. Wow. And I notice you have your name on the bottom, and there's a number.
A serial number. It's a consecutive serial. It's a consecutive serial number that I.
So you keep track of all the cues. So if somebody contacts you and they bought a cue 25, 30 years ago, you know what it was.
With the numbers in it.
Yeah.
What it is. Yeah. So this is the Deco design. And next, I would look at this one, which is the Venetian.
Beautiful.
See all that fine silver feathering and work that goes in between it. This is the Venetian, and this is an offshoot of the Venetian. This I call the Venetian silhouette, which is the black on black, so you're just getting kind of silhouette outlines of design.
The other thing that I heard you say one time in another interview that really is amazing is that you keep the ring work, I believe you refer to it as player friendly, right? So if somebody buys a Mcworter or they own one and they buy another one, they can use their shafts on their favorite cue and go back and
They're
forth.
interchangeable, and
Yeah.
I want a guy to be able to go to his local repair guy and
Yeah.
have a shaft made and not be a big ordeal and have
Yeah.
to send things back. Yeah, and I want them to be player friendly.
Yeah.
They want to be interchangeable for the last 3 decades, last 30 years at least. You find a 30-year-old shaft, will screw right on.
Yeah.
Dimensions will work. If somebody wants to work on the shaft, let's just make it easy.
What is the approximate order time if somebody doesn't go through a dealer, if they want to deal with you directly, and they want to order something from you directly? What's the best way to get a hold of you, Jerry?
The best way to get a hold of me is through Facebook Messenger, online. People look at my website, but that email address is worthless.
Okay, so Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, I don't even have an email right now. Mcworter Cues, Facebook Messenger.
Mcworter cues.
Or even better, go to Jan Mcworter.
Jan Mcworter. That brings me to you over here, ma'am. Okay, so no stranger to pool and billiards. Are you currently still doing a lot of lessons right now? If people want to get with you in the California area or somewhere that you're willing to drive to, or they want to come to you, how do they get a hold of you?
Mcworter at AOL.
Mcworter at AOL. Could you give us just a little slight Reader's Digest version of some of the things that you have been successful working with people on lately with their games, at different levels?
I'll tell you one that maybe she wouldn't volunteer.
Okay.
We were at I don't remember the store the other day or something, and some lady came up to her and said, "You're beautiful, and you look exactly like Michelle Pfeiffer." and Dan was very gracious and said, "Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful compliment. But Jan actually did play it in a movie, a double.
Really?
Self-fighter in a movie, yeah. And I said, you got to tell the lady that. She'd be thrilled with that.
I can see the resemblance. So when you show up to give lessons, they may think that they're dealing with a celebrity then, right?
Yes, I would love that.
So you obviously, besides being an ex-professional pool player, you're a student of the game, needless to say, right?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in different naming systems and different things that we can do. Because I know when you're giving lessons, not everybody can aim the same way. Not everybody sees
Yeah.
the lines or sees the balls the same way. So you have to be open.
So who had the greatest influence on your game when you first got into pool? And then favorite female player besides yourself? I'm putting you on the spot.
Favorite female player besides myself?
Don't worry, there's only thousands of people that are going to see this.
Probably, okay, I have to admit, honestly, probably Vivian Villarreal.
So we talked about that yesterday, didn't we? What a stroke. The Texas tornado.
Yeah.
So see, hey, great minds think alike, right, Jan? Huh? See that?
Vivian's attitude and how fun she was and how she just like her killer and her just
Yeah.
always wanted to win.
Awesome,
Find
awesome.
a way to win.
If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can message you on Facebook, Jan Mcworter.
Yes.
So if you start getting a bunch of strange Facebook requests, just accept them. That way they might want to order a cue or maybe take some world-class lessons. Thank you so much for your time.
Always been ordered.
Jerry, congratulations once again. Well-deserved. Hall of Fame cue maker, Mr. Jerry Mcworter. Thank you very much.